And again, I find myself out of my depth. This happens to me a lot, and it's happened all the way through my life. Like at 8 a.m. on the 3rd of October 2010, I found myself standing in a field in Edinburgh with 3 friends, Colin, James, and Andrew. We were about to take part in Scotland's first ever kilomathon, a metric marathon, 26.2 kilometres. Now, that's not the longest distance ever, but this was a really special event. There was a major sports TV channel there to cover it. There was 2,500 runners, and they'd closed one half of the Forth Road Bridge to let the runners run over and run back. I started running that day with my friend Andrew, but I realized just after a few minutes that he was way faster than me. I was holding him back, and I didn't think that was fair. So I turned to Andrew and I said, listen, why don't you go on and run your best and fastest race? Have a great day. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I'll see you at the end. Andrew ran on a few steps and he turned with a big smile and he said to me, now come on, Doyle, it's a running race, not a walking race. Pick up the pace and I'll see you at the finish line. He sped off. Some of you may have picked up that Andrew's from Dublin in Ireland. Some of you might not. I really struggled that day. Couldn't get my breathing right. My legs were heavy. I struggled over the bridge and back. And when I got to about the 20-kilometre mark, I came to the little town of Kirkliston, just west of Edinburgh. The locals had come out in force. They were cheering on all the runners. It gave me a real boost. But there was something wrong. Something very wrong with this picture. Just up ahead on the left, I could see there was a break in the crowd. There was a runner lying on the pavement, surrounded by people. I couldn't see who it was, but they were getting medical attention. When I got up parallel, something happened that stayed with me for life. An image etched on my mind. I looked left just as a paramedic looked up, and they were frightened. I snapped to it, I ran on and finished the race. I got into the finish line and I hooked up with Colin and James, my friends. We started looking around for Andrew. But just then we heard an announcement, would the friends of runner 82 please come to race control? And we thought, that's really clever. He's gone to race control so that we can find him. The race organizers told us that Andrew had been taken ill and that we should go to a local hospital to see him. When we went there, we were shown to a room where we waited and waited and waited. Eventually, 2 doctors came in. They told us that Andrew was dead. Andrew had experienced sudden adult death. He had simply stopped, just like that. It was Andrew that I ran past in Kirkliston, and I didn't see him. It was Andrew. The evening before that race in Edinburgh, Andrew and I went out for dinner. And he said something that made me laugh out loud. He said, why don't we go and do the Marathon des Sables? 6 marathons end to end across the searing heat of the Sahara Desert, fully self-sufficient. It's the toughest foot race on earth. I laughed and laughed because the very idea and concept of me even thinking about doing something like this was ridiculous. Him? Yes, absolutely. Me? No way. But as the months went on, and I thought back to that night in that restaurant, and I heard Andrew's words, let's go to the desert, let's do that desert race, I began to think there was a message in here for me. And I formed a conclusion. I'll share it with you. Andrew wanted us to do this thing. Andrew can't do this thing. I need to do it. I'm supposed to do this. It's all clear. Yes, absolutely. This is a mission for me. So I signed up. I signed up for the 2013 event. I went onto a website and I found some stuff. I bought a desert cap. I bought some goggles. And I bought a bag. This is actually my bag from the event. This is it, right here. And this is important, super important, because every single thing that you need for pretty much an entire week, everything is in there. When they say you're self-sufficient, they mean it. In April of 2013, I arrived in Ouarzazate, Morocco. Myself and the other runners, we went deep out into the Sahara to meet with the first base camp. The tension's building on day one on the start line. The organizers are playing music, they're playing megaphones, they're shouting and chanting, there's helicopters flying low overhead, there's a real sense of adrenaline and buzz, and then you're off. It was really simple what I had to do. All I had to do was a marathon, a marathon, a marathon, a double marathon, and then a marathon to finish. Easy. Easy, right? Well, as it turns out, no. Not easy at all. Not easy by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. Half an hour in, all the adrenaline faded away. 3 things got really real very quickly. Number 1, wow, it's so hot in the Sahara Desert. High 40s. Number 2, I've got blisters on my feet already. And number 3, I'm out of my depth again. I'm familiar with this feeling. I managed to get to the end of day 1 in pieces. Muscles torn to shreds. Feet covered in these little acidic, aggressive blisters. Day 2 was worse. The muscles that were torn got torn more, and new muscles joined in the party. And the little blisters in my feet did something really cute. They hooked up with their little friend blisters to make big blisters. Day 3 was excruciating. My body was failing. And the heat of the sun and the heat of the sand was like being fried and baked at the same time. I limped into the finish line on day 3, into the camp, and went straight to the doctor's tent. I took my shoes and socks off to show a nurse the state of my feet, and there was deep concern. You see, they've got a very interesting way of dealing with blisters on this event. A very interesting way. They slice them off with scalpels. And they apply iodine, gauze, and bandages. But the problem is, there was very little skin left on my feet. I mostly had bandages and gauze and nothing else. This was a really, really bad state of affairs. I was struggling to get my shoes on. Didn't help anything. Day 4, I woke up really concerned. I limped to the start line. And I thought, this is a tall order. This is a double marathon. It's painful to stand still. What am I going to do? But I set off with the mission in mind. I started to process the pain and got into a rhythm. And I was saying to myself out loud, come on, Eric, just keep moving. 1 foot in front of the other, just keep moving. I gave my all that day. I gave everything I had. But I got to about the halfway point of that double marathon section and everything unraveled, mentally and physically. I was on this rocky pass, and just up ahead on the left-hand side, there was an old, dry, crusty tree offering about 3 inches worth of shade that I managed to squeeze into. I sat down, had a meltdown, and thought about quitting. Absolutely broken. My feet are minced, and once I get to checkpoint 3, I've still got another 40 kilometers. I just don't see how I can do this. So I'm wondering if I should even continue or just sit here and get picked up. I think I'm last. No, there's someone coming now. Oh God, a little guy with 1 leg.
Just keep going slowly.
Yep.
And after the sunset, you will feel fresh.
I'll see you in checkpoint 3.
Okay?
Deal. Shake on it. Good man.
How is it?
That's the decision made. We're not quitting. That dude says, keep going. You've got to keep going. Thanks to the inspiration of Mohammed, I did make it to checkpoint 3, and I made it all the way through that double marathon section, but at huge cost. At huge cost to my mind and my body. I was broken and empty. When I woke up on day 5, my campmates were now actively asking me not to continue because of the state I was in. I explained the story and told them I had to. They carried me to the start line. There was blood and iodine pouring out of my shoes. My heart, my nerves, and my sinews were screaming at me, Eric, just stop. Just don't do this. But I had to go. I had to do it. What was worse looking back now, all the pain had gone. All the pain had gone. I was floating. I was talking to myself. I was singing to myself. I was hallucinating. I could hear Andrew's voice. He was saying, come on, Doyle, it's a running race, not a hobbling race. I put my sticks together and I thought, I'm just going to have a little rest here, just for a second, my walking sticks. And I put my head down just for a little breath. Just for a little breath for a second. And I woke up in the back of a Jeep. The French marshals had found me. they'd asked me if I wanted to be removed from the race, and in my delirium, I said yes. I was out. I'd lost everything. I'd let down my friends and my family. I'd let down myself, but I'd let down Andrew. No one who knew me when I got back to Aberdeen after that would think for a second that I would even consider going back. But I was always going back. Always. I decided to go back when I woke up in the Jeep. You see, there was unfinished business. Unfinished business. I went to take on the mighty Sahara Desert, the Marathon des Sables, based on pure passion and emotion. I'm going to go there and get a medal for Andrew. The Sahara Desert chewed me up, spat me out, and sent me home. One thing was for sure. When I did go back, everything had to change. Everything had to be different. So I set about making the world's most detailed plan on making Eric Doyle Marathon des Sables ready. I made a spreadsheet. And at the top of that spreadsheet was the word community, something I'd ignored previously. I joined all the forums. I made friends with really skilled ultramarathon runners and experienced adventure runners. I learned from them. I studied them. They helped me create a brilliant training plan and nutrition plan, which I stuck to solidly for a year. That in itself helped me with another line item on my spreadsheet, which was weight. I reckoned the weight of me and this pack needed to shrink by 50 kilograms. Tall order. I got rid of the body weight, and then I turned my attention to that. Every single thing was criticized and scrutinized for value and weight. If it had no value and it was too heavy, it wasn't going. Everything that could be trimmed and cut was trimmed and cut. If it could be cut in half, it was cut in half. Asking myself really difficult questions. Why do I need to take a change of clothes for nighttime? Why don't I just wear the same stuff for the entire week? I'm not going to smell great, but it's going to help with weight management. I started training in and around saunas, in and around Aberdeen, fully dressed, training for hours on end. You get some really strange looks at the gym. And I found a chemical that I could apply to my feet to turn skin into hard leather. They use it to treat horses' hooves. I made a detailed plan for each section of that race. You see, the thing is, when I did go back, I wasn't going back for a medal. I was going back to execute every part of a 35-point plan. In April of 2015, I arrived back in Ouarzazate. When they opened the plane door, the sights, smells, and sounds brought it all back, but I was different. I was absolutely different. Before I knew it, I was back on the start line on day one. They were trying to build the adrenaline and all of that, but I was a different prospect. I was ready. Stepped over that start line on day one, and the project plan was in play. In play from the get-go. I was monitoring everything. Food, salt, water, pace. I had a checkpoint strategy. In, turned around, boom, gone. 15 minutes. Nothing like last time, spending hours lolling about and chatting in the checkpoints. Gone. Repeat. I finished day one, felt great. Day two, I felt even better. The plan was working. It was carrying me through this process. When I got to day three, I finished, and I felt good, but I knew I had to send my wife a message. My poor wife, Sarah, was at home worried, and she was particularly worried about my feet. So I wanted to send her a little message. This is me coming across the finish line on day three. I love you. My feet are okay, and here's the running man to prove it. I woke up on day four quite nervous. This was the nemesis, the double marathon. And because it was the 30th anniversary of this event, they decided to make it the longest in its history. 95 kilometers. That would be through the day, through the night, and into the following morning. I started and just got the rhythm going. Just focus, just do this. Kept the same checkpoint strategy, just kept moving, and I continued moving all the way through to the finish. When I arrived in the camp at the end of day four, I was tired, I was sleep deprived, I was sore, but I was okay. I was okay. I couldn't have got to this point in this event without being open to change everything about my process, mindset, and approach to this event. Tragedy, loss, and failure can compress us, forcing our heads down, making us blind to all the amazing opportunities that there are in the world. But we can tilt our heads up. We can use that energy to find purpose, and do great things. We are powerful as people. And sometimes we don't realize it. But sometimes you've got to punch through a few layers to get to the power. But man, it is worth finding it because we can do amazing things. Passion can get us to the start line in many aspects of our business and domestic lives. But often it fizzles out or it breaks. Take that passion, wrap it in a great strategy, surround that with a dynamic plan, and then anchor all of that in a supportive and active community. And you will go further. I woke up on day 5 really excited. Really excited. And I felt good. This was the last day. One more marathon and I'm done. I'd saved a special playlist for this moment. And I knew I had to get it going. I set off. I got into a rhythm. A combination of the rhythm, the music, the heat, and movement put me in a little trance. I lost track of time and distance. I was focused. I was just a movement machine, crunching through the miles. I was really surprised when I came across a little rock. I was so deep in this trance, it was a surprise. It said on it, 5. You're 5 kilometers from the finish line. I couldn't believe it. And I thought, here we go. 5 kilometers, you can do this. There was one last thing to do. One last thing to do. I'd saved a special song for this moment, a song that means a lot to me, and a song that kind of explains the whole reason why I'd gone to the desert in the first place and why I was back. And that song is Don't You Forget About Me by Simple Minds. There's a moment in that song that gets me every time, even now. Maybe you know it. It's the point where they go, la, 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 la. It's getting me going now. With that running around in my head, I set off. I was making great pace. I was smiling from ear to ear. Such a different experience to the 2 years before because I was open to change. I came round a bend and I could see it. It was just there, the finish line to the Marathon des Sables. All that sense of failure, all that pain and all that effort to get here, and it was just there. I started sprinting. I was up on the balls of my feet. I was running faster than I'd ever run before in my life. I smashed across that finish line, and they gave me the medal. I looked at it for a few seconds, and I held it up, and I said, Andrew, we did it. We did it, Andrew. And I didn't forget. Thank you.